These are some of the strongest, most fun and epic builds in PoE 2. All of them can clear all content in the game. Delete pinnacle bosses, wipe out screens of enemies, obliterate the temple, and increased pit difficulty abysses. They do it all in style, with insane clear speed, of course. And in this one, we'll cover all of them briefly, so you can make an intellectual and well-informed decision on what your next build should be. Without further ado, we have at least one build per weapon archetype to cover, so we'll start it right off with the crossbow, as I forgot to cover it in my last video. And here, my friends, we have the explosive shot Pathfinder. If you love speed and hate your GPU, then this build is for you. Because what this build excels is in being fast, having ultra clear, and covering the screen is so much bullshit, you can hardly see your own character. All right, Mr. Big Penis Man, I'm sold. How does the build work? It's easy, really. Explosive Shot has inherently great clear and AoE. Combine that with actually stacking AoE along with using Herald of Ice, Pole Circle, and Armor Explosion chaining, and you have disgusting clearing capabilities. Unfortunately, though, crossbows suck balls. They're slow, they take ages to reload, and their single target is atrocious. But we can solve all of this. Firstly, we rock the Pathfinder. Now we can't be slowed, we can't be stunned, and we can sprint all over the place. Secondly, we use Ratha's Assault and Arjun's Meddler, and we won't have to reload. And finally, we use some clever weapon swaps with Explosive Grenade to nuke bosses. To understand how all of this works in detail, make sure to check out the description for this, along with all of the other build guides. But first, have you ever experienced lag in PoE? Well, obviously, who hasn't?
Brother,
What bugged me personally, though, was the fact that I had top-tier internet, but my ping never reflected that. Especially this league, my ping has been absolute ass for some reason, despite always selecting the best servers. However, with the use of Gear Up, I've managed to nearly halve my ping and pushing it down to where it should be. It works by optimizing the connection between you and the servers, basically solving any issues you may have with bad network infrastructure or connection. It always ensures you're connected to the servers with the best ping, and it removes ping spikes. It's insanely easy to use. You just boot it up, select the game of choice, boost it, and you're done. It's safe, loads of pros are using it, and it's definitely a necessity if you actually want to enjoy your games to the fullest. And don't take my word for it. It's free to test out. Just use the link in the description, redeem my code, and try it out for yourself. I can assure you, it'll make a big difference. The next build on the agenda is our Spellcaster setup. Now, everyone knows that comets are bonkers. Grab Spark, Elemental Weakness, or whatever the fuck you want, slap your cock with a few comets, and you've got yourself a build. It's the best way to play the game. You know it, I know it, but did you know that there are actually other caster builds as well that too are fantastic? Shocker, right? And here we have my favorite one, the Plant Cultivating Reaper by my lovely friend Jala. Now this is a build relying on the Reap skill. You get this by getting a scythe-looking staff thingy. And why Reap? Well, several reasons. It not only deals good damage by itself, but it also applies critical weakness. Weakness that we can take advantage of with our cock. Because in our cock, we have Thrashing Vines and Thunderstorm to overgrow them. Doing this has one massive advantage over going comets. It's not absolute eye cancer, and it doesn't fry your GPU. And of course, we can scale both our plants and Reap at the same time, as they're both physical skills. And speaking of damage scaling, we do this in a multitude of ways. Firstly, we need to scale our AoE. This is easy. Just slap on the trample toe sneakers and you're done. Then, we're going to use mana scaling and combine this with Archmage. After that, we convert all of our energy shield to mana, we convert damage taken from life into mana instead, and we transform our mana costs into life costs to ensure we have as much mana as possible up at all times. With proper gear, we're able to get thousands of mana, equaling a buttload of lightning damage via Archmage. Now there are, of course, a lot of other interactions making the build as good as it can be, but you'll have to find those in the planner and the full build guide that is coming soon. Stay tuned, is all I can say. Next on the agenda, we have my favorite build of all time, the Titty Twister. We've covered a bunch of different versions of this build previously on this channel, but for this one, I have something special. A Spellcaster Twister Hybrid Spirit and Rage Stacking Oracle, SCTHSARSC for short. If you've never played a Twister build before, you have to. You simply spin around with your whirling slash, you cast Twister, and you cover the whole screen in bullshit. The build is made by Beshowers, and you'll have to excuse the video quality, he's playing on a potato. But the reason I choose his version is that there are some really cool interactions used here. For starters, I said Spellcaster Twister Hybrid. Why? Why not just scale one or the other? That's because of Crown of the Eyes. Using this, all spell damage increases goes directly into the Twister damage bucket. This is one of the main reasons we want to play as an Oracle. The first one being 100% crit via inevitable critical, of course, but the second being access to spell damage nodes that only the Oracle can get. Then, we're going to start Rage stacking, as we can combine this with Berserk for not only a shit ton of attack damage, but we're also getting spell damage from Mystical Rage, which we also inflate via our Berserk for 200% damage or so. Then, when it comes to the Spirit stacking, we use this for using a bunch of crazy, strong, persistent buffs, of course, but also to increase our spell damage even more via the Threaded Light focus. All in all, we're getting 1,000 or so increased damage from these spell damage mods. But we're not just going to let Twisters have all the fun with that spell damage. Rather, we're using the fact that we have thousands of extra spell damage, we have 100% crit chance, and we slap our cock with some comets. And here's the great part. Not only does this increase our damage, but it increases our damage where we need it, on bosses, solving the infamous problem of Twisters sucking balls when bossing. This is another build I'll likely have a full video guide for soon enough, because man, that's some cool interactions. Next up, we have a fan favorite back yet again, the build that's caused more seizures than any build in PoE2 history. It zippity zaps through maps faster than any build in the game, it one-taps bosses, and most importantly, it's fun as hell. It's Flicker Strike by my man Corbin. We've covered this build on the channel before, but this league there have been some substantial changes to the build. But first things first, what are the main interactions here? Well, we have Flicker Strike, of course, and if you don't want to play Flicker Strike, then you can swap it for Falling Thunder, and the build still functions the same way. Both of these skills eat your power charges. The former to keep repeating itself, and the latter to create a big-ass AoE nuke. So somehow, we need to generate power charges. This is fairly easy to do though, because by slotting Profane Ritual into your cock, you can eat the corpses around you to generate power charges. As long as you have enough density in your map, you can more or less sustain your Flicker Strike doing this indefinitely, with emphases on the more or less. What do we actually do if we can't sustain it, and suddenly our flicker stops? Well, you may have seen it from the gameplay already, but Whirling Assault got some substantial buffs this league, now scaling as intended. And this skill is actually fantastic for clear as well. So when you run out of charges, you kill a few enemies with this skill, and you'll regenerate them back. For bosses, though, we need to use another interaction, and this is where we'll utilize Combo. By generating Combo, we can combine this with Aelith Chimes to spend it all and generate power charges. And once we have full power charges, we press the Flicker Strike button and make quick work of any boss in the game. Simple as that. There are, of course, other interactions here, but those are the main ones. If you want to play it, then Corbin has an extremely detailed written guide and several video guides out. Definitely check them out. Next, we have one of my favorite builds of all time, the Anal Fissure Titan. And as the name entails, it's a build entirely relying around different types of fissures, namely Sunder Fissures, Earth Shatter, and Molten Fissures. So what makes this build so great? Well, for starters, you're literally ripping out the ground beneath you, covering the whole screen in rocks and exploding several screens worth of enemies with Herald of Ice chaining. If you don't find that fun, then I don't know what to tell you. Eat shit, perhaps? Anyhow, the reason this build works so great is due to the fact that Sunder's AoE is just magnificent. And when paired with Herald and Armor Break chaining, it gets even more ridiculous. But where it gets truly ridiculous is bossing. Sunder as a single target skill is pretty ass, but Earth Shatter is definitely not. This skill has some of the best bursting potential in the game. You simply put 6 of them down, you shout at them, and they explode for a bunch of damage. Hell, with great gear, you can expect an Earth Shatter wombo combo to hit upwards of 100 million. And when paired with Forge Hammer and Molten Fissures, you get even more burst potential, along with an additional support skill to boost your Earth Shatters. It's a pretty straightforward and easy build to get online, as you can start running it after Act 3 or so. And for this one, I actually have several video guides and a written guide, so I can recommend checking those out if you want a fun warrior build. And if you don't want to play a shit-smearing warrior, how about playing a ranger? For the bow archetype, there are 2 builds that I can strongly recommend this league. They're similar in power, they play quite similar, but one relies on poisons and the other on freeze. Let's check out the poison one first. I strongly believe this to be the overall strongest bow build this league, and it's the Poisonburst Pathfinder. You've likely seen this before. I've made guides for it for several leagues now. Unfortunately, Fubguna decided to play it and fucked up the economy, but the gear for it has finally stabilized, and I can now recommend it. So, how does it work? Poisons are somewhat complex in this game. If you're stupid as shit, that is. I'm not saying you are, but I'm also saying I'll keep it on a low level here. Basically, we're relying entirely on poisons caused via a few different skills. For mapping, they're caused by Poisonburst Arrow. It has good AoE and scales well. And to scale it further, you want to use the Plague Finger Gloves, as you can now scale all different sources of damage. That is, elemental, chaos, and physical. These, in combination with each other, makes for a decent build. But when paired with Herald of Blood and Herald of Plague chaining, the AoE becomes quite ridiculous. Especially if you slap on a headhunter and additional projectiles as well. When it comes to single target, Toxic Growth simply deals more damage than Poisonburst Arrow, so we use that in combination with a few supportive skills to blow them all up. So while mapping was a one-button build, bossing is more or less also a one-button build, but with Toxic Growth instead, once you've put down your supportive skills. Overall, this is a fantastic easy-to-play and easy-to-set-up build, especially now that Fubguna left to play other games. If you've already played or seen this build though, how about testing oneshot instead? This is a build that's made a return this league as one of the best ranger builds. Here with Sire's build version. For damage, not much has changed. We're still playing basically a one-button playstyle with oneshot, and to boost the clear, Sire's is also using Fork and Herald of Ice, allowing the ice shots to properly clear out the map. And for bossing, it's all about freezing the boss with oneshot, freezing salvo and freezing mark, and then consuming the freeze with snipe for a massive nuke, allowing for tens of millions of damage in one hit. But the real reason the build became properly interesting, and beyond insane this league, is due to the reverse chill tech. So turn off the Riley Reid gangbang on your second monitor and listen up closely, because you can use this for a lot of builds. This league, you can take the quite shitty shackles of the wretched gloves and make them godly instead. by vialing them with a Vol Cultivation Orb. Doing this, you can reflect all elemental ailments onto yourself, chill being the main one we're interested in. Because when paired with Sierran's inheritance, we can reverse this chill effect, meaning while chill usually slows you, it can now speed you up instead, allowing for some crazy movement speed stacking. This is good in itself and can be used in a large assortment of builds, but when paired with a bow build, it's even better. Because bows have access to Asphyxia's Wrath, this increases damage taken on enemies chilled by your hits. Good in itself, sure, but this is reflected onto yourself, and once reflected, it's inverted, meaning you're getting some actual proper damage reduction from the reflected chill magnitude. Using this, you can get 80–90% damage reduction, making you near immortal. And that's pretty strong now that we have content that can actually kill you in the game. Alright, so that's the bow builds I recommend. For the final build of the day, I saved the best for last. The Stampede Cocaine Reverse Chill Bear build by Fissures. Now, when actually looking at this gameplay right here, the first question that probably pops into your mind is, what the actual fuck? And the answer to that question is largely due to the reserve chill tech we just discussed. Unfortunately, we're not able to gain the damage reduction as discussed earlier, but we can get ridiculous amounts of movement speed. And the lovely thing with the Stampede skill used here is that you're attacking while moving. Meaning, it's basically like those good old attack speed stacking builds, moving at the speed of light, just with the difference that we're doing it with movement speed here. We then pair it with stacking as much movement speed on our gear and passive tree as possible, of course, and we end up with this beauty of a build. When it comes to the gameplay, this build is silky smooth. All you need to do to get all of these interactions up is generate rage via your ferocious roar. You then use Lunar Assault to freeze nearby enemies and gain a massive damage bonus via Bartire's Vengeance, seeing as we're also rage stacking in this build. After that, you just press your Stampede and run around the map for as long as it's up. When it drops off, you repeat and go again. Due to the massive cold damage bonus we get by Bartire's Vengeance, it's easy to combine the build with Herald of Ice as well for a buttload of AoE shatters. Now, the main downside of the build is that it can be quite expensive at the high end. But Fissures does provide budget versions, so if you want to play the build, make sure to check those out. And with that, I'm done with this shit. Drop a sub, and I'll see you in the next one.